Hey guys, my name is Ritesh and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the seventh program of this course. Till now we have seen all basic programs. From this program onwards we will increase the complexity of the code little bit. So in this program we will learn how to use a for loop and range function of Python. So basically in this video we will write a program that takes the upper and the lower limit of a range and print the sum of all numbers within the given range. Now let us understand what exactly we have to do this in this program. Okay, so first we have to take a upper limit from the user and the lower limit. So consider the lower limit here as 10 and the upper limit as 20. Okay, and according to the given problem we have to print the sum of all numbers between 10 to 20, both inclusive means we have to include 10 as well as 20. Okay, so basically the solution will be we have to add all the numbers between 10 and 20, so our result will be around 165 if we consider the lower limit as 10 and upper limit as 20. Okay, but obviously we will not do like this in Python code, so we have to do our program efficiently. Okay, so what exactly we need to do is we need a sequence of numbers from 10 to 20, and then we have to iterate over that sequence. And as we all know that for iteration we use loops, so in this program we will use for loop for iteration, and to get the sequence from 10 to 20 or any other range we will use range function. Okay, so let us understand how exactly for loop and range function works. Basically for loop is used to iterate over the elements of the sequence of any sequence. Now let us understand how the range function works. Is basically range function provides us a sequence of numbers. So if we write range of n, it gives us numbers from 0 to n minus 1. Okay, so here 0 is considered as the lower limit and n is considered as the upper limit. You can see over here is we have mentioned only one number inside the range function. Now let us understand how range function works. Range function basically provides a sequence of numbers. Okay, so if we write range of n, it gives numbers from 0 to n minus 1. For example, if we write range in parentheses, if we mention 5, it will give us a list of numbers from 0 to 4, that is 0 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay, now you have to notice if we have mentioned only one number inside the range function, then the lower limit is by default considered as 0 and the upper limit is considered as n or any number that we have mentioned. Okay, another important point is the number what we considered as the upper limit in the range function. After the range function executes, when it gives us a sequence of numbers, it gives the last number of the sequence is always one less than the number we have mentioned here. As you can see here, we have mentioned range of 5. It gives us the numbers from 0 to 4, so 5 is not included in the list. Okay, now as you can see here we have not mentioned the lower limit. That means the lower limit is automatically considered as 0. But what if we don't want 0 as the lower limit, or we want any other number as a lower limit? So we can mention the lower limit or the starting number as well in the range function. So what we can do is in the range function we can provide both the numbers, the start number or the lower limit and the end number or the upper limit. Okay, so as I have mentioned, we can also provide the start and the end number in the range function. So if we write range 5 comma 10, it will give a list of numbers from 5 to 9. Here the lower limit is 5, so the list will start from 5, and the upper limit is 10. So the last number of the list will be one less than the upper limit. So here the upper limit is 10, so we will get the list from the lower limit, which is 5 to 10 minus 1, that is 9. Okay, also one thing you can notice that between any two consecutive numbers in the list the difference is always 1. That means the step size is always 1. But if we want a different step size, that is if we don't want a step size as 1, so we can also mention step size as the third parameter of the range function. So as you can see, we can also specify the step size in the range function. Step size represents increments in the value of the variable. Okay, so if we mention range 1 comma 10 comma 2, it will give a sequence as 1 comma 3 comma 5 comma 7 comma 9. So you can see between any two consecutive pair of numbers the difference is 2. Okay, so this was all about the range function. Now let us understand how to use for loop and range function together. Okay, for a range 10 to 20, this is how we have to write the for loop. We will write for I in range 10 to 21. Why? Because is we need a range from 10 to 20. So if we write 10 comma 20 inside the range function, it will give us a list of numbers from 10 to 19, which is 20 minus 1. So to get 20, we have to add 1 to the upper limit what we have taken from the user. Okay, so this line, that is for I in range 10 comma 21, internally this range function gives a list to the for loop, that is 10 to 20. Okay, and it will end at 20. Okay, now we will see how the code will run for this range, that is 10 comma 21. Okay, so for before running the loop, we will create a variable sum and we will initialize it to 0. Now the first iteration will be when I is equal to 10. Okay, then we have to solve that sum is equals to sum plus I. Here this sum shown in yellow is the sum before this iteration. Okay, so during the first iteration, the sum before the first iteration was 0, so we have to write 0 plus I, which is 10 during this iteration. Okay, now the sum will be 10, that is 0 plus 10 is equals to 10. Now during the second iteration, that is when I is 11, so we have to again use the formula sum is equals to sum plus I. Now this sum which is in yellow is the value of the sum before this iteration. So the value of the sum before this particular iteration when I equal to 11 is 10. Okay, so we will add 10 plus I, which is 11, we will get 21. Similarly, we have to follow this step till I is equal to 20, because the last number of our list is 20. Okay, I hope you all have understood the logic of the program. Now let us see the algorithm or the pseudocode of the program. In the algorithm, the first step is to read the lower limit and the upper limit from the user and store it in different variable. The third step is we will use for loop and range function to calculate the sum of all numbers, as we have seen in the example above. And the last step is to print the sum. Let's see what is the expected output. So this is the expected output. First, the computer will ask to enter the lower limit of the range, which is 10. Then it will ask to enter the upper limit, which we have entered here is 20, and then it will print the sum of all numbers within the given range is 165. Okay, I hope you all have understood the explanation part of it. Now let's write the code. So this is the code. I have named this code as program 7, and the first line of the code is a single line comment, and it mentions the title of the program. Now let's start. So I have created a variable which is lower limit. Okay, in this variable we will store the lower limit of the range, and similarly I have created a variable as upper limit in which we will store the upper limit of the range. So we have used input method, and before taking the input, yeah, a message will be displayed to enter the lower limit of the range. Similarly, for upper limit, a message will be displayed to enter the upper limit of the range. Okay, then we have used int before the input method to convert the value to the integer, because every input what we enter is considered as string by the input method. So int method will convert the string to the integer number. Okay, similarly with the upper limit variable. Now we have initialized a variable total sum, which will store the sum of all the numbers within the given range. So we have initialized total sum as 0. Now the for loop starts. As we have seen in the explanation part of the video, this is how we write for loop with range. Okay, for is the keyword which mentions that this is the for loop. I is the iterator. You can mention any name to the iterator. I have mentioned the name as I. Okay, in the range function we have mentioned lower limit as the value what we have stored in the variable lower limit, and for the upper limit we have mentioned upper limit plus 1. If our upper limit is 20, if we have given the input of the upper limit as 20, we have to mention here as 21, so that the range function will provide the sequence till 20. Okay, so in this for loop there is only one statement. Okay, so here the total sum is equals to total sum plus I. This total sum is the sum of all the numbers previous to this iteration. Okay, in this way the total sum is calculated, and in the end we have printed the value of total sum on the screen. I hope you all have understood the code. Now the code is ready. Just save the program and press F5 if you are using idle, or if you are using any other text editor, you can run this program on the command prompt as well. So let's enter the lower limit as 5 and the upper limit as 10. So when we press enter, it gives us the result of sum of all the numbers from 5 to 10. Okay, so here the sum of all the numbers from within the given range is 45. First we have entered the value of lower limit, which is 5. So here the lower limit variable will store the value 5. Similarly the upper limit variable will store the value 10. Okay, now we have initialized total sum as 0. Now the for loop will start, and in the range function the lower limit will be 5 and the upper limit of the range function will be upper limit plus 1, which is 10 plus 1, which is 11. So the range function will give us a list which includes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and inside the for loop the total sum of all the numbers from 5 to 10 is calculated, and in the last statement we have printed the sum of all the numbers within the given range. Okay guys, I hope you all have understood the code, and that's it for this video. And please keep in mind how the range function works, because in the further few videos we will use for loop and range function to solve many problems. Okay guys, that's it for this video. If you found this video helpful, then do like my video, and please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon. And if you have any suggestions, please mention those suggestions in the comment section below. Okay, thank you.